A famous writer named Bruce Cockburn chose to live alone in the interior of Southern California. This was done after he wrote a book called The Infernal Machine. This book is very famous, bestseller, and made Bruce a famous writer. One morning Bruce received a letter from someone named William Duncan. He claimed to be a fan of Bruce and asked Bruce to give him advice on writing a book. But Bruce wondered how William Duncan could find his home address. Bruce then called the person and told him to focus on his writing and not bother him anymore.
I'm calling in response to the letters I've received from you. I'm not sure how you found me, but
One morning, Bruce saw a car delivery package enter his private estate. Bruce was a little surprised because no one knew his home address. He let the mailman go. The next morning the package delivery car came again to deliver a letter from the same person. Bruce was ready with a rifle in hand, but because the mailman was only doing his job, Bruce told him to put the letter in the barrel in front of his house. After days, the letters from that person finally filled up the entire barrel. Bruce was getting annoyed and burned all the letters and left one letter that was brought home. Bruce, who was drunk, read the letter. After reading it, he went to a public telephone, which was quite far from his house. He also called Duncan and spoke in a drunken state until he fell asleep in the telephone booth. Bruce was awakened by a female officer named Laura. He gave Bruce a ride so he could get home safely. Laura began to recognize the face and name of Bruce, a famous writer. Not wanting to be overcome by anger and panic, Bruce finally tried to be calm about this problem. He wanted to contact Duncan and have a good talk. He asked Duncan to meet at a cafe not far from his house. Bruce hopes that way will make Duncan satisfied and stop terrorizing him. After a long wait, William Duncan didn't show up either. Bruce thinks Duncan has given up. He decides to go home. It's been a week and no more letters have come. Bruce is even curious about William Duncan. He went to the post office where William Duncan sent letters. He wants to trace where the letter came from and who sent it. Bruce was surprised. It turned out that the letters sent were not recorded in the delivery data. Feeling that his house is no longer safe, Bruce tries to contact Laura. Laura said that the perpetrator might be someone who was hurt and wanted revenge on Bruce. Increasingly curious, Bruce then searched the internet about the 1981 tragedy. At that time there was a terrible incident when a 17-year-old teenager killed 13 people and injured 20 people. The teenager climbed to the top of a campus tower and shot the victim from above. After being arrested and interrogated, he admitted to having committed the act after reading a book called The Infernal Machine. This is what makes Bruce's life alone. Upset, Bruce goes to a payphone to call William Duncan and scolds him. Shortly after finishing the call, Bruce saw something suspicious in the former gas station building. He checked inside and found that there was a miniature of the 1981 tragedy, complete with all the papers from the Infernal Machine book, stuck all over the room. The next day Bruce brings Laura to check out the place, hoping it will provide a clue to finding who has been terrorizing him all this time. They found a tape containing a video of the shooter undergoing interrogation. During the interrogation, he confessed that he carried out the shooting to take revenge on God, who had made his creation suffer. He thought that way could save them from suffering. This idea appeared in the perpetrator's head after reading the Infernal Machine book. He felt like he was hypnotized from the words in the book. Laura, who was curious, asked what the essence of the Infernal Machine was. Bruce replied that the book was about someone who found God and discussed the purpose of human life. Bruce then went to New Mexico to visit a prison where the shooter in 1981 was being held. Bruce hopes that the shooter named Dwight has a relationship with Duncan. Using the pseudonym Bruce meets the now grown Dwight, White claims to have met someone named William Duncan, but refuses to tell what they talked about. White immediately realized that the person in front of him was Bruce Cockburn, the author of the Infernal Machine, which was the reason he went to prison. After leaving prison, Bruce went straight to the former gas station building. But strangely, the room is now clean without any evidence. And the strangest thing is when Bruce contacted Laura, her cell phone number suddenly turned off. He then returns home and finds a package containing a cell phone sent by Jerry, a book publisher acquaintance of his. Jerry said he was impressed with Bruce's new book. Feeling that he will never write a book again, Bruce asked Jerry to fax him the book. The book turns out to contain Bruce's own life, every word, movement, and story of his life. Bruce realized this book was written by William Duncan. The next morning, Bruce was awakened by two federal agents. They asked about his visit to the New Mexico prison yesterday. It turned out that after Bruce left, the shooter managed to escape from prison. He is currently in hot pursuit. Meanwhile, Bruce is still curious about Laura, who suddenly disappeared. Finally, a surprising fact was revealed. It turned out that Laura was not a real police officer, and her daughter was not her biological child, but the mother's child in front of her. He says his daughter is very good at acting. The mother said that if Bruce wanted to register his son, he could go to a cafe called Yulee Cafe. Bruce immediately went to the cafe, then searched for trash around it. He finds a police uniform belonging to Laura. This convinces Bruce that Laura has something to do with William Duncan. With a loaded gun, Bruce enters the cafe. Upset and angry, Bruce threatens to shoot Laura, but he is surprised that all the bullets in his gun are empty. Someone silently stripped him when he entered the cafe. Before leaving, Laura said that soon Bruce would meet William Duncan. After the cafe, Bruce went straight home. When he got home, his dog suddenly came out and barked at something behind the trees. It didn't take long for Dwight to appear, who had just escaped from prison. He wanted revenge on Bruce, who had kept him in prison for decades. Bruce, who had been cornered, looked resigned, but he found a sharp object and managed to injure Dwight's neck. In his near-death state, Dwight asked about the meaning of the entire Infernal Machine book. Bruce replied that he didn't know either, because he wasn't the one who wrote the book. Bruce rushed his dog to the nearest hospital to be rescued. From there, Bruce thought to reveal the truth about the book, The Infernal Machine. He wanted to convey to the public that he was not the one who wrote the book, The Infernal Machine. He hopes this will end the terror carried out by William Duncan. When on the way home, Bruce noticed frequency interference on his radio. This often happens when he passes near the base transmission station. Curious, Bruce stopped his car and explored the lower room of the base transmission station. What a surprise Bruce found when he found someone with burns in it. Bruce recognized him, the man named Elijah, his former student. It turns out that Elijah is the original author of the book, The Infernal Machine, as well as the person who has been claiming to be William Duncan. Their story begins when Bruce, who is teaching, accidentally finds Elijah's writing. Bruce believes that one day Elijah will become a famous writer. But Elijah turned out to have an unstable mentality, where when he had no more inspiration to write, Elijah decided to set himself on fire, just as Bruce came to see him. Bruce, who thought Elijah was dead, immediately collected the writings. He rearranged the writings and made them into a complete book entitled The Infernal Machine. Bruce also claims that he is the original author of the book. But Elijah's appearance was not to take revenge on Bruce, but Elijah's purpose in doing this was to continue his writing, where he made a real scenario, with Bruce's life as the object of his writing. Bruce was furious at Elijah, which cut off one of his oxygen cables. Bruce then chose to leave with a letter that made Elijah curious about what was in the letter. Before leaving, Bruce replies that the letter contains the truth about who the original author of the Infernal Machine is. This of course would end Elijah's scenario, then suddenly an explosion destroys the room. With a body full of burns, Bruce crawled to the mailbox and sent the letter to the media. Bruce was tired of all these lies and wanted to be honest with everyone that he was not the original author of the Infernal Machine.